I'm just a devil with love to spare. It's VGC, the video game podcast, with me, Jordan Middler, Chris String, and Andy Robinson. This week, Switch 2. But first, very briefly, how's it going, Chris String? VGC's new coffee boy, welcome.
It's great. Yeah, I love unemployed life is.
I was going to say you should have a business card like Camilla, unemployed man.
Yeah, I'm really bad at being unemployed. You can't run at 100 miles an hour and then just stop. So the first thing I did was just start writing things.
You're like when Chris Scullion has 3 weeks off and then spends it writing.
Yeah, I'm sort of, I can't sit still. It's not my nature. So I'm working on a new media thing that'll be revealed shortly. But, but
VGC 2.
Still waiting. VGB. So I've just been beavering away on that whilst trying to take a little bit of a break. But how can I take a break? It's really exciting. What an exciting start to the year.
Yeah. Andy Robinson, I heard that you had a haircut interrupted today. Would you like to comment on that?
I had to move my haircut. I found out was 30 minutes before the Switch 2 announced, so I had to move it. I'm fresh from the trim. It's really annoying. I've noticed that one of the lights in my my furniture behind me has fallen down, and I really want to move it.
You can't. There's too much business to attend to. Before we get to that business, patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. Later today, we will have more on what we're talking about right now, which is the Switch 2. Finally, we got a trailer, 1 o'clock UK time. The trailer was a couple of minutes long. It showed the console. It showed a 3D render of the console. Where have we seen that before? We're going to pick the bones of it right now. More information on April 2nd. Chris Dring, first question. Did you expect them to show more today?
Maybe a little bit more. No, I wasn't expecting them to show games or anything. I did expect a similar reveal to the Switch 1, which was a trailer. But there's not much to go on, is there? It was like, what's the selling point behind the Switch? Why should people get a Switch 2? And the big thing seems to be magnets. But I thought it looked pretty. And I'm obviously excited as a Nintendo fan, but it was very, and people have been working out whether or not the skating of the Joy-Cons were indicating of mouse control and all that kind of thing. But it wasn't like when the Switch 1 had that trailer which showed how it was all going to be used and all the different use cases for it. And it's Switch 2. Yeah, I think the thing that upset me the most is the Switch 2 logo. Is the Switch 2 logo. It's a bit loud to me. Like, I don't need that big 2. Come on.
It reminds me of when Activision was working on Destiny, right? And you had the creatives and the cynical marketing people like clashing. So they're basically like, no, you have to put a giant 2 on it. So very clear, it's not an expansion, but you have to do it, right? I mean, Wii U's not a flop if Activision's publishing it.
No, well,
because it's been called Wii 2,
Wii HD.
Wii 2. Andy, did you expect more, or was this kind of in line with what you were expecting?
No. Anyone who listened to the podcast last week, I said this is what was going to happen, right? It would be like a teaser, and then they'll do a bigger explorative Nintendo Direct later. This is, I don't know if Chris agrees, this is probably just so that third-party developers can just start talking about and announcing their games, right?
Yeah. I guess I'd hope to see an indicator of what Switch 2 can do. Interestingly, I've got a mate of mine who's insisting that the Switch 2 is not really a Switch 2, it's a Switch Pro. And I keep trying to say, well, no, it's like, what's the difference between
But it sort of is, isn't it? Yeah, it's all positioning now.
Well, there is an element, there's a question of like, what's the difference in a PS4 and a PS5 and a PS5 and a PS5 Pro? But I said, well, if PS5's legitimately a new generation, why is this not a new generation? And he said, well, I didn't see anything to indicate it is. It's because, the game they showed off was Mario Kart, which is not going to show off the graphical capabilities of the new hardware. So
that does look a bit disappointing, by the way. I know we've seen a 30-second snippet of it, but it looks like the fact that people aren't sure whether it's Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart 9, to me, it was, if it's true, the specs of this system are true, right? We're jumping ahead of the conversation quite a bit here. But
just go, just freeform.
It's a significant leap, right? Like Switch to Switch 2 is going to be a bigger hardware leap than PS4 to PS5 was, like comparatively. Like it's going to be, I mean, I don't mean that literally. I mean, like this is going to feel like a big leap compared to Switch 1. Like you're going to get proper PS4 ports and stuff like that. Whereas Switch could barely run, anything on it. So considering that, looking at that Switch footage and, thinking, well, that looks like Mario Kart 8, I immediately thought that must be hiding something there. Like, I mean, if the game looks kind of the same, then there must be a trade-off somewhere. And I think people have started counting the number of players on screen. It seems like they've doubled the number of players on screen, so that would explain it. 24
speculated
players.
It was a Forza Horizon style Mario Kart, which would be fun, wouldn't it?
That'd be amazing.
But I think also in Scotland.
taking the conversation back to where we were, I think Mario Kart as well is looking at Mario Kart and the way I'd answer that would be the same way that I've been looking at the system and being quite fascinated to see this reveal, in that how conservative are they going to be? I mean, if you've just sold 65 million Mario Kart 8s, I don't think you change it. Well, certainly the pressure is there. I mean, Nintendo is known for reinventing the wheel, right? But, I said this a few podcasts ago. This is fascinating for me, that this is the first console that neither kind of Iwata or Yamauchi worked on. Their CEO Furukawa is very much like a bean counter. This is going to be very interesting to see how this shapes up, and it is fascinating to see how they have balanced it. I mean, we've not seen hardly anything today. We've just seen a product tease of stuff we mostly already knew from leaks, right? But it will be fascinating to see coming out of Wii U. And how hugely aware they are, clearly, from their comments in the past, the investor calls and stuff like that, of the risk, the danger of resetting your user base and going to a new platform. I find it fascinating to see how they're going to balance that. I mean, first of all, it's the first, unless I'm forgetting something, it's the first Nintendo console that is a direct sequel, right? I mean, unless you're going to count Super Nintendo, there's no other Nintendo console, unless I'm missing something, that has like a 2 in the name. Yeah. I mean, you could also maybe include 3DS, right? In that, Game Boy
Advance.
You know what I'm getting at. It's very direct. The proposition is very clearly the same thing. I think any of the changes they've made are branding, differentiation readings, like, or we need to make it black and we can't have the Joy-Cons a solid color. It needs to be very clearly different of anything that's been offered on that to differentiate it. I'm surprised the logo is still red. I mean, I guess if your corporate branding is very much red, Nintendo, but still you look at that, and if it didn't have a giant 2 on it, it's the same logo, right? Well, so I just find it fascinating from that perspective.
It's, I think, interesting talking about someone arguing that it's a Switch Pro, really. And I think the thing with Nintendo's audience is that outside of us, right, who are always going to get it, Nintendo's audience is a bit more mainstream. And the reason why it's important that Mario Kart does do something different each generation is you get those parents, and less so today because parents today grew up with gaming, but certainly my parents were looking at it and going, sorry, what's wrong with the Mario Kart you got? That used to be the thing. Like, what's wrong with the game you've got? It's a bit more powerful. It looks a little better. Is that a thing? Whereas Nintendo every generation has gone, well, this one's got 3D visuals and this one's got motion controls and this one's got a tablet controller. They've always had a USP that they've hooked it on because they need that to win over audiences that aren't won over by better frame rates and better visuals. And the Switch 2 is obviously, it doesn't obviously have that hook this time. And I'll be interested to know what hook they go for. But it's a different world, right? Because each new generation was a complete new upgrade. One of the biggest problems PlayStation has got right now is there's too many people playing on PS4. And the reason why they're playing on PS4 is because Fortnite runs fine on PS4. And Nintendo are going to have that challenge with, to a lesser extent, because the Switch is aging a lot more than the PS4 was. But I'm assuming Mario Kart 9 is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive. I hope it is. But we know that Metroid Prime isn't. If Nintendo's lineup this year is Metroid Prime, Pokemon, and Mario Kart, that seems like a killer lineup. But we know two of those games.
Metroid Prime's not exclusive.
It's on Switch, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought you meant. So, do you mean it's on Switch 2 as well?
Yeah. Well, if those games are upgrading to the next generation.
Oh, right. Okay.
So if Nintendo's 3 big games this year and 2 of them run on Switch, That's the challenge they're going to face. It's a challenge. So
I'd be interested to hear from your business experience. Is that a risk? Because I would say, from my perspective, the bigger risk would be leaving Switch too soon. Right?
It's not the risk; it's the challenge.
Because the early adopters, everyone who can buy this console this year will buy it.
Yeah.
The challenge will be like the next year and the next year, right?
The challenge is upgrading people at the minute.
Yes.
That's the challenge PlayStation have. And that's the challenge they're going to have. And they absolutely should make these games available on Switch. They've got 146 million consoles sold, and they've actually got, I think the last number was like 106 million active users playing the console every year. So that's a lot of people to go, yeah, we're done with those. Right? They absolutely shouldn't do that. And that's exactly what PlayStation haven't done. But it is a challenge for them to try and get them to go, come on, move across. We want you to upgrade. We want you to get the new hardware. And eventually they will, as those consoles break and as things like GTA 6 come along, give people compelling reasons to do so. And it's going to be Nintendo's challenge as well, because we live in an age where people the incentive isn't quite as clear. I think Switch is in a different position because Switch games do feel old now. Switch,
they're gonna have the same challenge, aren't they? I mean, it's because people built their digital libraries in that generation, right? You're going to turn on Switch and your games, presumably, like your games will be there, and it's your same account. I think Nintendo said, been very clear about that. Your same account, your same users, and it doesn't, kind of understandably doesn't feel as much as a reset because of that. And then there's a portion of people, to your point, who perhaps don't see the need to fall over. What, Fortnite runs on this? Call of Duty runs on this. Why do I need to upgrade? I mean, half of PlayStation's active users are still on PS4, right? So I do think, even though they very clearly had to be more conservative with this one, even if it is just on the presentation, the proposition, I think that's a big risk and possibly a big mistake if they don't offer something compelling that Nintendo always does.
Has it got mouse controls, do you think?
Oh, it definitely has.
Yeah.
It definitely has. You can see the sensor on that video.
And what's that for? Strategy games? First person
apparently
shooters?
it's on. Apparently that's already in some of the kind of portable PCs that are out there. I can't remember the manufacturer, but we mentioned it in one of our articles. There's a pocket PC gaming handheld thing that has Joy-Con attachment that can do that. So who's going to use it? They might bring out like a Mario Paint and do something like that, but a mouse is probably not as exciting in 2025 as it was in 1994. So I personally, I'm never using that bloody thing. But that's the thing. Nintendo sell this with software, right? They always sell their hardware with software, and we haven't seen anything.
The most important bit. Well, to be fair, every games console's the same. They're just means to facilitate the games, and that's what we want to get our hands on, is those games. And I think we're going to see probably one of the strongest third-party lineups Nintendo's ever had. Yeah, with Switch 2. The industry's in a really tough state. They want to be on as many platforms as possible. Switch 1 wasn't a console they could really port a lot of their games to. Some people tried, and some people tried very successfully. But now we've got a machine that actually, particularly those who've been making games for Series S, they feel that they can potentially get their games running on this, and that opens up games for it. And you've already seen some of the stuff leaks. We know Call of Duty is coming out on it. And I think a lot of third parties are. The Switch 1 had barely any third party support. No. Even 7 years in.
There's just so many games out there now, because really, most of the PS5 and Xbox Series X stuff is last gen ports, right? So, there's going to be so many of those that can just come over. I think Ubisoft are bringing a ton of games. Square Enix are bringing a ton of games. So Sega. It's not going to be surprising, right? That's going to have a absolutely gargantuan launch lineup, that system, which possibly I'll be interested to know how that maybe affects the indie scene, because the indies historically did really well on Switch. Is that bad news for them?
Yeah, I think it's not bad news, but I think anyone expecting a Switch 1, because Switch 1, because it had a handful of Ubisoft games, Nintendo. Games like Snake Pass came out and did like huge numbers.
Snipper Clips.
Yeah, Snipper Clips was a Nintendo title. It was published on Nintendo. But those sort of small games did very well because there wasn't a lot of options. And those games are going to have a little bit harder this time. What I will say is the indie scene does tend to tap into the Nintendo audience a little better than AAA games do. Like those so many of them are platformers, 3D platformers, and, cutesy adventure games. And you think of games like Overcooked and stuff that do so well on Nintendo platforms, whereas, I think games like that will always do better than a Call of Duty or a Cyberpunk or whatever's been planned for it. But it's certainly going to be a more interesting thing. But our problem is for third parties, all third parties, they have to acknowledge, and I think they do know, that people buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games, and they might be able to have some success on it, but it's not going to sort of be.
I remember a period. I mean, did I imagine this? But or at the start, the first couple of years of Switch, I remember a period where when there was multi-platform stuff, and like there were like indie games were exciting still, and there was like PS4 and Xbox One stuff that could competently run, on Switch. Everyone was always like, "Well, I'm getting Switch version for that." Of course, I am.
That might just be me and you.
I mean, that's what it felt like. If there was a multi-platform release, like I'll give you an example, like Sonic Mania.
Oh,
I mean, I know the genre fits, but you just assuming it would run competently, which obviously towards the last couple of years, like, well, of course I'm not going to buy, something like Apex Legends or something that's going to crawl along. But I just remember in those days, it's like, we're definitely going to get Switch version because I can play it on my TV and I can take it away, which I can't do on the others. It's a great
I guess there's
proposition.
That's the case for me now, though. I think that was an element of that. I don't think there's necessarily going to be that appeal this time because there are other handheld options for those sort of audiences. But yeah, it's going to be people who buy this are going to be Nintendo fans, and any third party games that succeeds on that have to appeal to that audience. So I think a game like Hogwarts Legacy was a hit on Switch, and the Lego games are hits on Switch, and Just Dance is a hit on Switch because those games, and Crash Bandicoot, Insane Trilogy, and Spyro, they do very well on Switch because they tap into the audience that Switch has. Whereas there are, you have some hardcore players on there. Skyrim did very well on Switch, and the Doom games did solid numbers on Switch as well. And Civilizations, I think, Andy, you've just seen the new Civilization, haven't you?
Jordan did.
Oh, Jordan.
I'm playing it at the minute.
Well, that was when I interviewed them last year, and they basically changed their entire development process based on the fact that Civ 6 did so well on Switch. It was for them, it was because, I see there's a large audience of people that want to play this on the go. So there are games that do very well that are slightly more hardcore.
Tokyo-based analyst Dr. Serkan Toto tells me, as it turned out, the leaks over the last few days really killed the surprise, at least for me. But even without the leaks, I would say the punch this trailer has done does not even come close to the one introducing the original Switch back in 2016. We knew before that Nintendo would hold back software, but they also kept mum about the price, release date, or even basic features. I did not expect a lot, and I'm more interested in the software slate. That video would be way more exciting than this.
Oh, yeah. That's the main thing, is what are the games? Are we going to see us? Because you think that first year of that Switch, it wasn't just the console that was great. It launched with Zelda, then followed up with Splatoon, a Mario Kart, then Splatoon, then ARMS, then there was a Mario & Rabbids game, and then there was Mario Odyssey, and then there was Xenoblade, all in like 9 months. It was a killer start to that console. Are we going to see something like that this time? I mean, I actually had been expecting that, but even if you just go, it's Metroid, Pokemon, and Mario Kart, that's big for any normal.
I mean, you can bet your life, right? I mean, you're going to agree with me on this, Chris, because you remember this well. The Switch was they had to go all out on Switch, because if that didn't work, then they'd have to fall back on 3DS, and what God knows what they would have done. So their thing with Switch at launch was that we're going to have every Nintendo franchise in the first year, right? Mm-hmm. In the launch window. They're just going to do that again. Like there will be a Mario Kart and a 3D Mario within the first 6 months. There'll be a Pokemon. Animal Crossing will come out the year after. There'll be a Kirby game. There'll probably be an announcement of a Smash Brothers game. Go and look at that first year on Switch. It's insane how many games they brought out.
Yeah.
I mean, Switch 1 has been on the back burner, I would say, for at least 2 years.
But if you can upgrade, so for example, there's clearly the Zelda team's not going to have anything ready for a while. So there will be a Zelda, won't there? There will be something Zelda. Obviously, I'm surprised that the Grezzo game came out on Switch 1, because that would be the obvious. But they'll have something Switch. Maybe there's another remaster, and maybe they'll move those Wind Waker HD or whatever to the platform. There'll be something Zelda, right? There'll be a proper Pokemon. There'll be Kirby. Yeah, but if you think about from a business point of view, right? I know Metroid Prime is. If I'm thinking about it from a I don't know. Right. So Mario Kart, you're going to get bigger than Mario Kart. And that's the big mainstream game that transcends generations, right? So that's, we know that's there. Now, Metroid isn't a big Nintendo franchise. It's obviously well loved and big AAA budgets, but it's never a big seller, but it always feels like it deserves to be. So is Nintendo going to invest some decent money trying to do for Metroid what they managed to do with Zelda on the last generation? Because Zelda tripled its high, the best-selling Zelda game before Breath of the Wild was Twilight Princess, that did like 9 million copies, and Breath of the Wild did over 30 million. So there's a chance here to go, hey, can we make Metroid a bigger thing? So they might think, let's give it a window, let's give it a big marketing budget. And they've got that Pokemon Legends game that, Arceus was a huge hit. It was a much bigger hit than people anticipated. So I even look at that. I look at Metroid, Mario Kart, and Pokemon. That's a big year for, outside of a console launch year, that would be a big year for Nintendo. I certainly would expect them to go, let's do Mario Kart, let's do Mario at Christmas. But I'm sitting there thinking, how do you squeeze all those in this?
So that's it. I think especially if they run better, I'd be surprised if they don't have enhanced patches, right? Just even from a basic view, if the frame rates are unlocked and stuff like I'd be surprised and disappointed if it wasn't a better experience playing Pokemon Legends and playing Metroid Prime 4.
But I'm acting on the assumption.
But that's a good lineup, right? Like I don't think it needs, because those games are Switch 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming they are. I'm assuming
that's got to be. That's got to be the lineup. I would expect probably one of those to. I don't know, is that all going to fit into 1 year? They're going to launch with Mario Kart. I think 3D Mario is going to be Christmas. Metroid can probably fit in the middle there.
Pokemon's August, I heard, or something. That was a rumor I read somewhere.
Yeah, so I think one of them's going to end up there, isn't it?
But then they did it.
Pokemon will probably be slightly after that, just based on when the World Championships are, because obviously those games have ramifications in the trading card game and the anime and everything.
Well, the Legends don't, does it? Legends don't.
Oh, yeah. It does for trading cards and anime. Your proper Pokemon game is next year for the 30th anniversary in 26. But just to slightly change, to switch to a different element of this, they're doing a world tour, which might point to when this thing's actually going to be out. Andy said last week that he thinks probably June, and this world tour runs from April 4th until June 1st. So do we think we're going to be sitting at Summer Game Fest desperately trying to get a hold of a Switch 2? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Yeah?
There we are. Good chat.
Confirm. Get that up on the site, please, Andy.
Yeah, everyone was saying it. Andy and I were at the TGAs in December, and everyone we spoke to said, yeah, it's out in like May, June.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure I said it on the podcast last week. Yeah. I'm sure I did. I mean, and this only strengthens that idea, right? That you look at their tour. What the direct is in April. The tour's starting, I think, right after that, April and May. 4th. It's going to come out May or June. Everyone wants to avoid GTA if that's still going to come out this year. It's going to be a busy summer, right? It's going to be a busy year for games. I hope we're all going to make.
Switch needs to be out there and build some audience before GTA launches on it, right? Switch 2 GTA.
That's going to run amazingly. The World Tour is an interesting one. Obviously, they did their kind of launch event for the Switch in, I can never remember the name of that venue, but the one in London.
Hammersmith Apollo in London.
Yeah. So do we imagine that do we think that this is also when the press is going to get their first look at this thing? Is it just going to be a secret kind of... Because I remember when they did the event in Japan where like Andrew Wilson came up for the Switch and said, yeah, EA is going to make some games on it, and it was all very awkward. The press saw it the next day. So I kind of...
that feels like such a weird like black hole for me, because me and Chris went to the London event and played it. So I remember that together. So we spent a lot of time together, didn't we? But I was dev side at that point, so we were working on Ukulele for Switch. Trying madly to get it to bloody work on Switch. Thanks Unity. That's a real black hole, because that event, I'm sure it was like 2 a.m. UK time. So I did not watch it, and I've still not watched it, because it was a rare time in my life where I did not have to work, cover something for work. So I just did not. So I literally don't know what you're talking about.
It was the same thing. I watched the direct video, and then I went straight to the Hammersmith played the thing.
So
at
basically,
the Hollow.
they had an event in Japan where all these devs came up and said, "Yes, we're making games for the Switch," including Andrew Wilson, who flew in to not announce any EA games, just be like, "Yep, EA is going to make stuff." So it was all very uncomfortable. This was when people didn't know if the Switch was going to be this massive hit that it ended up being. It was still
Nintendo was in a bad spot at that time.
Yeah, I'm excited though. I feel weird about it. I said this on Blue Sky. Obviously, the video they showed was largely indistinguishable from the 3D render that got put out during CES, apart from the Mario Kart footage. So obviously,
it's all clearly correct, right? I mean, I don't know what Chris's insight is on this, but it seems that the reporting we did last year about is slipping out of last year into this year. Just the number of leaks heavily suggests that was probably true, right? They've clearly been manufacturing it for a long time. You know, it suggests that what Bloomberg has been saying about them wanting to have a huge stockpile for launch to avoid the shortages we saw.
That suggests to me if they're going to have a huge stockpile, they are expecting a fast shift from one generation to the next. You know, if they're not. They are.
I don't know about you. I can't wait to drop my Switch in a paper basket bin.
I've not played mine in a year. I'm over.
I review most of Nintendo stuff, right? And I can't wait to stop using it.
Got it next to me. I'm still.
It's just. It just. I hate. It just barely runs. The thing I hate most about Switch is that it just has no personality. The UI.
That's what I want. People keep talking about lack of innovation on Switch and Switch 2. So they're saying, it doesn't seem to do very many new things to Switch 1. I don't really need the console to do anything new. I actually think the Switch 1 as a device and the games on it is one of the greatest Nintendo consoles ever made. What lets it down is I want something weird. I want a Street Pass. I want a Miiverse. I don't really want Miiverse, but I want something like that gives it a bit of a.
I do. Why do they get rid of Miiverse?
Well, I just wasn't a massive fan of it. I never used it very much, but I loved that idea of it. I love that digital innovation, that weird Nintendo-ness that was to the sort you got on. You didn't get that on Switch. You got it on some of the games, but as a platform, there was a lack of use of personality. For me, it was just digital innovation. It was very functional, and everyone felt. I remember at the beginning launch of the Switch, and people looked at the eShop and they think, "Oh, Nintendo's going to patch it in later. They're going to fix it later on," and they never did. Right? Things like Tetris 99 and some of their sort of weird 99 stuff was them playing. It was just shows what they can do in this space. But I miss Street Pass. I miss Street Pass.
It's just the store barely runs. Yeah. It still barely runs.
I struggle. I downloaded a game.
Nintendo Life guys launched bettereshop.com this week. And it's a brilliant idea, but the fact that has to exist, they've just cloned the eShop on a web browser, so you can actually use it.
They've got a big digital partner in DNA, right? So it's like they've got experts on this. I would love to see the Switch 2 to have a really innovative or some really cool digital features. I don't need it to do more hardware wise. Power wise, I need it to do more. But in terms of like novelty, I don't need to see additional screens or anything like that. But I'd love to see something in the device.
Well, let's hope the fact that it was a bit bare bones was the fact that they were just trying to get it out the door, seemingly originally, right? I mean, the Wii U flopped hard. It lasted 3 years. It's probably way ahead of their schedule putting out the new system, but they know that the last system's a massive hit. They know that this is going to, at the very least, do modestly well. They've had extra time to come up with the proposition for the back end and stuff like that.
And from an industry, so I'm hoping it'll be good. I mean, ultimately, I'm really quite. I obviously look at it things from a more top-down, industry-wide view as well. A new Nintendo console with a big Mario Kart game, that's a huge launch. And you've in a year that's also got just loads of. This summer's going to be. Have we ever seen a summer that's potentially as busy and as?
I never believe it because we always have this conversation about this time of year. I mean, not to this level. This is clearly the biggest one, and then half of it just gets delayed. I still don't think GTA comes out this year. That's not insider knowledge. That's just me. I will never believe a Rockstar game's coming out until they've delayed it at least twice.
Well, yeah, but I mean, on paper,
Yeah, I was sad to see the return of the Joy-Con grip. Let me tell you something. The industry's least comfortable controller handle. However, I was surprised. I was surprised just how much the Joy-Con grip looks exactly like the Switch one. Like, I thought they would maybe like change that slightly. But I like the blue and orange colors around the sticks. Do we think that the new thing is, instead of selling different colored Joy-Cons, they just sell black ones with different colors around the sticks? That's $1 billion.
Well, I would imagine that a launch is to differentiate from the original Switch, right? Because that thing, from 10 paces away is just going to look like Switch One if those are colored Joy-Cons. I mean, they've differentiated it that way, right? I mean, that scheme very clearly doesn't look like anything on Switch. To your point, though, they've made them bigger. They've rounded them off. They're taller as well because of how they connect magnetically. They kind of go inside the console a little bit, so they should, in theory, be a lot nicer to hold. I would speculate that a lot of the similarity maybe comes down to backwards compatibility. I mean, the last couple of consoles they've been compatible with the previous consoles' controllers. I don't see why
games
that
aren't going to work though. Certain games.
I agree.
It's not going to work. Tears of the Kingdom. Nope. No Pokemon games either. Not happening. It's just going to be Labo, isn't it? It's just going to be pitch like that.
You're going to have to upgrade to you have to upgrade the Nintendo Plus version of the games in order to get them to run. I think part of the reason why the magnets as well is because I think a lot of kids broke the Switches by pulling on the plastic things. Retailers used to tell me used to be the thing they used to get a lot of people coming. It wasn't the Joy-Con drift half the time; it was because they broke the connectors. It's just really there's not too much to say about it, really, is there? I mean, we don't know half the things about the machine.
Are you excited, Chris String, Mr. Nintendo? Are you excited?
Yeah, I am excited. But I'm not excited because it's Switch 2. I'm excited because I'm going to see because of Metroid Prime and because of Pokemon Legends. Pokemon Legends is my favorite Pokemon game in years and years. So I love the fact there's a new one of that coming out. And I'm assuming they're on Switch 2 and I'm assuming they're going to run really nicely.
Yeah, I'm not playing another Switch. I'm not playing another Pokemon game on Switch 1.
So I'm excited for those reasons, but not because of the hardware necessarily, but because of the games on it. There's a lot of questions around, how well it's going to do, what the price is going to be. So
the good news is that their share price is slightly up. According to Dr. Toto, says there's certainly some relief in the financial community. Investors were afraid of another Wii U situation where Nintendo tries to experiment or over-innovate, but misses what users actually want. For this cycle, investors were hoping for a more iPhone-like iterative approach, and Nintendo certainly delivered from that perspective.
I think doing an innovative thing is a gamble.
Until he finds out the reason the Joy-Cons are bigger is because you play them with your feet.
Come on now,
feet control. You notice you can get it really flat now. The screen, so maybe it's so you can rest your feet on the.
But the controllers have got the triggers kind of stick out, so you can't. I think that's why the rumor was the original dock is not compatible because it literally isn't the same profile. So they've got these weird. It looks like the triggers on the Joy-Cons kind of work in both like horizontal and vertical. Like they're kind of like a dual trigger. They look odd, but I imagine there's some good design there.
Okay, in honor of me being in Vegas before we go to the break, put your money on the price. I'm saying 450 Great British pounds, Andy.
400.
Okay, Christopher.
What I think it should be is 399. I think that's a safe number, but knowing Nintendo, it'll always be more than I think it's going to be. So I'm going to say 479.
479. Wow, you're getting to PS5 Pro money up there. Okay, we're going to have some reactions from the VGC Massive after this break. And we are back. I asked the VGC Patreon Massive on Discord, patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle, what they thought of the review and if they had any reactions. Mark says, the Switch had stick drift. What is the Switch 2's fault legacy going to be? Broken magnet connections? Chris String, how are we going to break the Switch to day one?
I think it's the feet can try, and he was going to talk about, it's going to break. Oh, somebody actually said on Twitter that they've got a pacemaker and they're worried about the magnets. So I think it's Switch 2 is actually going to kill people. The 3DS was going to destroy kids' eyes, and
I don't know how electronic magnets work though.
I don't know.
Because isn't the idea you turn them on and off? So it's not like you could stick it on your fridge. It needs to be turned on by like electronics.
All I can say is that I think the magnets will probably cause people with health problems to, die. There we are.
Oh, but it's going to be so nice, like not to, when my kids accidentally put the Joy-Cons on upside down a couple of weeks ago, and it's pain in the arse to get them back off. It does feel really cheap and crappy how they go on.
Yeah. I think it's worth the fatalities. I think the changes is definitely
if one man's pacemaker dies, mate.
Yeah,
she needs to get the Pacemaker Pro.
What was the name of that vitality sensor? Bring that back to keep people alive while they're playing the Switch 2. I thought this was an interesting point that I saw. Do you think the timing of this review and the timing of it and compared to when they're actually going to show more stuff like the Direct changed based on the leaks? Or was it always going to have this kind of gap in timing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there'll be certain things they'll be thinking about, right? So Trump's getting inaugurated next week. You're not doing that. I just think they needed to. I do think it's a means to an end, right? They've announced it so people can start talking about their projects. GDC is in the middle of that. Like the leaks are just all over the shop. Yeah, you have to announce it at some point. They've got their Christmas period out of the way. They're not announcing it in December.
They've released Donkey Kong, which is the big concern. They hurt the sales of Donkey Kong Country Returns.
It's come out today.
Andy already killed the sales of Donkey Kong Country.
It's just not very good. It's all right.
That's the only Donkey Kong Country with not a David Wise soundtrack on it. So it's, it's not worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
Maximum of 3
David
stars.
Wise, no party.
Okay. Interesting. Why did they paint the inside rail of the console blue and orange as well? If I buy a different color Joy-Con and I snap them into the blue and orange port, it won't match. Is that the case? Is the inside of the Switch also blue and orange?
What?
Well, they did show that little bit. And I wonder if it, what I would have done if I was in their shoes, I would have made it like a light thing that you have to pay Nintendo to change the lights on the inside of your Switch. Like they did. Yeah, you don't have to be spy a physical item anymore. You've got to pay Nintendo for someone to press a different button on your internal light system.
I would have loved if the little rings around the sticks were lights, like on the PS5 controller that changes depending on what you're doing. That'd have been great.
Yeah, that would have been fun. It's a good point.
I wonder.
It's on the inside though. I don't think people are going
stuff like at launch.
You're right. That in the video, the inside of the console are blue and red.
Why?
Yeah, so basically, you can't get separate gold. You'll have to buy an entire new console for the. It's on the inside, right? No,
That's weird.
That's bizarre.
Do you know what though? Like, I kind of admire that level of detail because, especially the original Switch, it feels like they got it off of like Etsy, like off of Alibaba.com. It feels like a generic like shit LCD iPad thing, like knockoff. The original Switch just feels really cheap and non-Nintendo. It could have been made by anyone.
I don't know. I felt it was a step up over the Wii U.
No, I disagree. The Wii U feels like it's actually designed and made for a consumer product, whereas the original Switch just feels like they bolted it together with some bits off of eBay. There's nothing on it that tells you it's a Nintendo console other than the fact that it's got the logos like ironed on the back.
Yes.
So I appreciate this level of detail. At least it looks like something that Nintendo made.
It's been designed.
Indeed.
Still Game 7 says, It will definitely be a winner with all of us, referring to adults boring old people, but how will it go down with kids? Will it be priced appropriately for parents to buy for kids? And final thought, it lacks a bit of that Nintendo charm, referring to it being all black. So from a kid's perspective, from a parent's perspective, Chris, ring first, how do you think this lands?
It would depend on the game. It's always difficult trying to convince parents to upgrade, particularly in the market at the moment where everyone's constrained financially. But it's that element. The thing is, what's great about the Switch, and I think the Switch still will have the same thing, is it appeals to parents today are gamers, right? So when my parents weren't, my parents didn't grow up with video games, but the kids today's parents did grow up with video games. More importantly, they grew up with Nintendo games. So when you're sitting there and you're trying to convince parents to buy the game, they're not just buying it for their kids, they're buying it for themselves as well. They're buying it to play together. So it's the dynamics are different. So I think as long as it's still got that, all dad wants to play this, mum wants to play this, and they can play it with the kids as well. It's sort of cross that generation. That will be, that will make the price a little bit more palatable. But it is going to be the challenge because there is an element of, I can just stick with the Switch. The kids can wait. My parents were never rushing to buy this sort of things. When it comes to color, well, the main Wii was black, wasn't it? And
surely the launch, that's not really their concern at launch, right?
Yeah, their concern at launch is they're going to sell it to the hardcore people. They're going to rush out and buy it. They're the people that buy it day one.
I mean, this has been designed for the hardcore. It looks like a hardcore cool. Looks like a console for gamers, right? They'll bring out the cheap, the yellow Animal Crossing one.
The Switch 2 Lite.
Mm-hmm. Switch 2 OLED. Is this definitely going to be an LCD screen? Because I would pay £100 more.
Well, not definitely, but everything else I've said over the last couple of years has turned out to be true, right?
I would love it to be true.
Without sounding like a dickhead, but we reported 2 years ago that it was going to be another Switch-like console with Joy-Cons with an 8-inch screen. Blah 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 blah. It's got to be the most leaked Nintendo console, right? We were told at the time, I think Bloomberg reported it as well, that it was an LCD, not an OLED. You can get good. I mean, that was very disappointing for me at the time because the OLED Switch is such a huge jump over the original. Yeah. But the LCD, it's an LCD on PlayStation Portal, right?
Yeah.
And isn't that supposed to be really nice?
Yeah.
So you can get different levels.
Yeah.
No, Vitas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I'm with you, Jordan, in that if they said to me, here's a Switch, you have a Switch for $449, or you can get buy one with OLED screen for $549, I'd get the OLED version. And there are people like us that would buy that. But I suspect they're saving it for 2 years in or whatever.
Yeah, there's people that like us that will buy it in 2027. It's I'm excited. As soon as it goes up on Amazon, I'm going to pre-order one, but I'm not like...
Other retailers are available. Actually, are they?
No, just
for now.
Yeah, I'm going to pre-order it in game and get it in 5 years' time.
Pre-order it from game and pop into the latest Sports Direct to find out.
Find out that it's been shut.
Someone makes a good point here in response to the idea that it's kind of more adult-focused. Teneri Harp says, even the video was like something from Apple, which was a shock, really. Do we expect the April event to be more fun, leaning into characters, games, and features? Or do we think it's going to keep this kind of very, here's the slick new product? Are they going to have a bit more TM and Nintendo magic?
Yeah, I think so. The Wii, if you go back to and it's a long time ago now, and different people are working there. But you go back to the Wii was like an Apple product reveal in that, the logo, they moved away from the red Nintendo to the sort of grey thing. And there's the sleek, the whites of the console and stuff. But the games were, Wii Sports and a lot of jumping around and having lots of fun. So I go to, have you ever been to the Nintendo Live events? They are, they're brilliant. They're full of it's all about kids. And I suspect, the fact they're doing this in the UK, they're doing it at London Excel, which is a huge venue for one company to take over. I'm sure they're not taking over the whole thing, but that suggests to me, they want parents bringing their kids along and that whole big family affair of come along and play these games and stuff. So I think that's part of the thing. I should think so. I understand them sort of. They're going. This reveal was, as Andy says, is the people who are buying this are adults and people that want a sleek console that make their games look a lot fancier. But ultimately, Nintendo is not really about hardware. Nintendo's an entertainment company now. right? They're about Mario movies and Zelda games and museums and theme parks. That's who they are. And that identity is going to feed through to everything. So it's still going to be big, colourful, bright characters dressed up and photos and Animal Crossings and Splatoons and all that kind of stuff. That's what they are.
Here's an exclusive scoop for you, Chris, / prediction. It's at the XL, which is also where they have the Pokemon European Championships. What if during this World Tour they also have a pop-up Nintendo store the same way they do the pop-up Pokemon Center?
I just hope I have a job by then. That's all I can say.
And then they'll do an exclusive UK Mario, and it'll be impossible to get. And Andy will post in the Slack 2 days after the event started he couldn't get one, and he's raging and angry. And
no, that's what Pokemon does, mate.
Pokemon is the tail that wags the dog. Pokemon's much bigger than Nintendo. I think that World Tour stuff will be interesting because presumably is maybe just giving people a chance to play Mario Kart, but it feels like they have to give people more than that because it's not like obviously I remember when they did the Wii stuff in shopping centres and people would stand around watching people do it because obviously there's like a visual.
I mean, the stuff they did, the thing they had at the original Switch one, what they had Mario Kart was the main game. I mean, that's the seller for them, and it's a great, it's a perfect title to have at an event, right? That people can pick up and play quickly. They had snipper clips. They had 1, 2, 3 Switch.
Arms. I played Arms against Dara Brian.
Those are good event games, right?
Yeah. Arms 2.
And Zelda was at the back. They had that back area. You had to queue up to play Breath of the Wild. It was. And there's a lot of stuff, and each one of those areas will be themed up. It's just I don't know if they'll do I'd love it if they did the full Nintendo Live experience where they have like big bands playing Mario music and little mini Zelda concerts and photo opportunities of created things. That if they're going to do that, that'd be really cool. But I'm assuming it's just a load of pods with a bit of branding.
Yeah, and a geezer in a suit.
Chris Scullion standing there in a Mario suit with no head on, asking people.
He'll have his own booth. Meet Chris Scullion.
Meet Chris Scullion and Mel B together at last again.
Do you think they'll wheel out Charles Martinet again? We've not seen much of him since he's taken on the Mario ambassador role.
He's not been a very good Mario ambassador, is he?
Yeah, Nintendo released like 50 Mario games last year. I didn't see Martinet show up ambassador.
Where are you, Mario ambassador? He's like Mario ambassador the same way you're GI.biz ambassador.
He's probably just wandering around handing out Ferrero Rocher to all the people as they walk through the door.
Charles Martinet won't be invited, but he will be there. He's going to buy tickets to every single one of them and just show up in the line and do the voice for people. Or the guy who does the voice. Does it top of your head? Do you know the name of the guy that does the Mario voice now? Exactly. I'm bad with names anyway. Some random Donnie is going to show up and go.
It's not Ben Starr, isn't it? It's the.
It's a me, Mario. No, sadly not.
Me, Mario.
He'll also turn up.
Yeah, of course he'll be there.
He'll be doing the impression for people in the queue.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm glad that we can talk. Well, I mean, it feels like we've been talking about it for about 6.5 years at this point, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I want to see what the Pro Controller looks like this time. I hope it's not like £80, but I bet it will be something ridiculous because the last one was expensive.
My dog just ate one of mine. I had to buy another one. It's still like 60 quid.
I had to buy a new one. The dog ate it.
Literally, the dog did eat it. I didn't eat it.
The dog ate it mid-review. That's why that took a star off of Donkey Kong. Any other big reactions? I suppose for you two, when we get to this direct, what are you looking for from that? Because obviously we don't need convinced to buy it because we're all going to get one. Do we think it's just going to be...
I want them to convince me it's not just a more powerful Switch.
Yeah.
I really want the personality back. Wii U is a console I more fondly remember than probably I will Switch because of those little things. Well, the UI is fantastic. Miiverse and stuff like that was fantastic. The turn screen on your mate. That's brilliant. Like I look at it now, I'm thinking it looks futuristic. The problem with Wii U is it didn't work. Yeah. It like Switch doesn't work. Bing could barely run, but you turned it on, and real time people ran towards the games they were playing. That's cool as hell. It looks futuristic now.
I love that. I mean, I genuinely legitimately think the Switch is the greatest video games console ever made. I'm saying that was you need to be a Nintendo fan to think that. But I have never played. I've never played a games console more. I've never played more games on it. And I'll be honest, as a Nintendo fan, I'm a fanboy. Despite the internet thinking I'm a PlayStation fanboy, I'm a Nintendo fanboy. and for the last 2 years, ever since Mario Wonder basically came out, it's been really boring being a Nintendo fan. Like, there's a Princess Peach game, there's a couple of Mario RPG ports. Echoes of Wisdom I really loved. I know, Andy, you were a bit more lukewarm on it, but I really enjoy that. But actually, it's been a pretty boring year for Nintendo. They've how many directs they've done in the last year? One?
It's been a boring couple of years. I mean, you regularly get slaughtered. And I said the same thing on forum corners for saying that Nintendo was basically pretty much done after
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. But they were. I mean, like, Mario Wonder is an awesome game, by the way. Like, it's one of my favorite 2D Marios. I didn't like the new Super Mario Bros. Series very much, so I love that game. But it's made by the younger team. It's not the Mario team. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Tezuka is there in a producer role.
Pikmin 4 is great, which came out in
Pikmin 4 is great, but that's not, you put the list of Nintendo's top 10 biggest hitter franchises, right, in terms of market performance. Is Pikmin in it? It might be next time, but that's like saying they brought out a new Metroid, like it doesn't even, like, that's not a crater on the moon to them, right? So since then, it has kind of just been, like, port this and I'm surprised Echoes of Wisdom came out, but that to me, that's complete speculation. I wonder if that was planned for the new console at one point, because that kind of fits that you would have that in the first year or the second year.
I don't know if it shows off. I don't think it shows off the hardware though. I've just found, as a Nintendo fan, I've had a couple of things. I've had an alarm clock. I've had a museum. I've had a 2D Zelda game. I've had a 2D Mario game, which I thought was pretty good. I didn't love it as much as I love other Mario games. But it was very, very good. And ultimately, it's been a little bit boring since Tears of the Kingdom. And actually, I wasn't hugely in love with Tears of the Kingdom either, as much as I have been previous Zeldas. I love Pikmin 4. But it's been a pretty quiet, it's just 18 months, right, for Nintendo. It's been really, really quiet. And so I want to see some games. I want to see something big and exciting. I want to see, what's the Mario team working on? I want to see a big open world Mario game. I want to see Metroid Prime I want to see more of that. I want to see whatever this Pokemon Legends game is actually going to do. I want to see some things, and I'm really excited that we're going to finally get that. I'm just a bit frustrated not getting the February Direct, I assume, not this time. We're having to wait all the way till April. When was the last Direct? Was that around April?
No.
Was it May? Was it the May one?
Didn't they did a June one, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Sorry, Metroid June. Yeah.
So it's almost a year between sort of directs, 9 months plus. That's a big old wait between. You used to get one every 4 months, and now it's a big old wait. And but I'm hoping it's going to be worth it, and it'll be one of their more spectacular ones.
Well, you won't have to wait 4 months for the next episode of VGC the Video Game Podcast, because it'll be out next week. You can get more podcasts on patreon.com/videogameschronicle. All the Switch 2 coverage in the world on the website. We're about to do a 5,000-word expose on why they've painted the inside of the console, since we've just broke that news live on the podcast. Until then, though, Chris Dring, what are you up to, you jobless bastard?
You're going to cut it at the point I'm about to tell you. Watch this space. It's going to be cool and it's exciting. If you're into the business of video games, that's obviously what I do, and it's going to be there. It's going to be in that space. But I can't tell you, I'm not doing it by myself. There's some other people involved, and I can't spoil it fully. But I'm really. If you follow me around, you might see certain names and stuff pop up on social media.
Shigeru Miyamoto?
Yeah, me and Miyamoto are launching a business site. Oh, no. I went to Snoop Dogg's house in LA. Everyone that's where I went. And
that's a hint.
And the deal was done.
And the deal was done, yeah.
Well, Andy Robinson, what are you up to at the moment? I've not seen you in thousands of years while I've been out here wasting my money.
I'm running the bloody website, mate, while you're gallivanting.
I'm not gallivanting. I'm my nose is to the grindstone. Civ 7 preview, Yakuza preview. It's not called Yakuza anymore. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Is that the one? Is that the one that needs to go up in 5 minutes?
Why do you think I'm wrapping up this podcast, though? Until next time, we're going to have a lot more this week. Obviously, it's switched 2 times, so we're going to have fun with that. More podcasts on Patreon. Chris Scullion just put up a big video showing all his mental console collection, so go and check that out. Patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. Say goodbye, Chris String.
Goodbye, Chris String.
Say goodbye, Andy Robinson.
Goodbye.
The Switch 3, I'm hearing it's going to come out in February. Until next time, see you later.